Weird Tales, April 1923, Volume 1, Number 2. Greetings, dear listeners. We're back again to examine the second issue of Weird Tales. Weird Tales, the unique magazine, April 1923. April, no foolin'. So, what's in it? None of the big names we associate with Weird Tales, but a number of holdovers from the first issue, including Anton M. author of Ooze, future editor Farnsworth Wright, Hamilton Craigie, Julian Kilman, and Otis Adelbert Klein, concluding his novelette The Thing of a Thousand Shapes from the March issue. From the table of contents, 16 thrilling short stories, 2 complete novelettes, 2 two-part stories, interesting, odd, and weird happenings. So, without further ado, here are this month's stories. The Scar by Carl Rasmus, a thrilling novelette. Beyond the Door by Paul Suter, a short story of gripping interest. The Tortoise Shell Comb by Roylston Markham, a fantasy of a mad brain. A Photographic Phantasm by Paul Crumpler. No description. I guess the title says it all. The Living Nightmare by Anton M. A Night in a House of Death. The Incubus by Hamilton Craigie, a frightful adventure in an ancient tomb. The Bodymaster by Harold Ward, an amazing novelette. Jungle Death by Artemus Calloway, a story in which crocodiles and voodooism play the stellar roles. Woohoo! The Snake Fiend by Farnsworth Wright, a tale of diabolic terror. A Square of Canvas by Anton M. A story of an insane artist. The Affair of the Man in Scarlet by Julian Kilman, a weird story of the 13th century. The Hideous Face by Victor Johns, a grim tale of frightful revenge. The 40 Jars by Ray McGilvery, a strange story of the Orient. The Whispering Thing by Laurie McClintock and Culpeper Chun, a 2-part novel of death and terror. The Thing of a Thousand Shapes by Otis Adelbert Klein, the concluding chapters of a weird novel. The Conquering Will by Ted Olson, Do the Dead Return to Life. 6 Feet of Willow by Carol F. Michener, the strange tale of a yellow man and his beloved reptile. The Hall of the Dead by Francis D. Grierson, an occult story of ancient Egypt. The Parlor Cemetery by C. E. Howard, a grisly satire. And finally, Golden Glow by Harry Irving Shumway, a haunted house story with a touch of humor. Henry Hamilton, i.e. Harry Craigie, was from Connecticut and lived from 1880 to 1956. Ironically, the most information I could find about him came from his listing on Find a Grave. It reads, quote, Hamilton Craigie was a famous pulp writer for many types of magazines: Western, detective and mystery, adventure, fantasy, science fiction, etc., known for his stories for Weird Tales magazine, such as The Incubus in the April 1923 issue. End of quote. The only Craigie story that I am familiar with is The Man Trap, which appeared in the November 1925 edition. Horror Babble does an excellent audio recording of the story, and I've linked to it in the description. I still like Horror Babble, even though they keep saying I'm dead. Julian Kilman was born Leroy Noble Kilman in Canada in 1878. His birthplace is listed as Drummondsville, Ontario, which I believe is now part of Niagara Falls, Ontario, my old stomping ground. In any event, he spent most of his working life as a government official in Buffalo, New York, where he became the District Director of Naturalization in 1925. Kilman wrote over 50 short stories, 6 of which appeared in the hard-boiled detective magazine Black Mask, with 5 appearing in Weird Tales, all in 1923. I gleaned the above information from author Douglas A. Anderson's blog, linked to the article in the description. Anderson has this to say about Kilman's 5 stories. Quote, "However, as well written and executed as these stories are, the simple truth is that there is very little of the fantastic in them, and as little horror. It seems probable that as Weird Tales found its own niche, Kilman drifted away from being a contributor simply because his work was never a good fit in the first place, and because his interests lay elsewhere." End of quote. I suspect I probably agree with Anderson's assessment. The only Kilman story that I have consumed thus far is The Mystery of Black Jean from the March 1923 edition. I found it a rather pedestrian and predictable story. I easily guessed the ending, but I put a link to an audio recording of the story by A Carrot's Studio in the description, so you can listen to it yourself and tell me if you agree with my assessment. The April 1923 cover story, The Whispering Thing, by the forgotten authors Laurie McClintock and Culpeper Chun. Culpeper Chun, real name Seymour Cunningham Chun, author of the short book Plotting the Short Story. John J. Miller has this to say about the story. Quote, "The protagonist of The Whispering Thing, co-authored by Laurie McClintock, who otherwise has left no trace in the written record, is Jules Perret, a French-born ex-policeman and current consulting detective, a small, effeminate man with delicate features, small hands and feet, given to uttering extravagant oaths." End of quote. Oaths. Oaths. You know, as in curses and swears and that. Well, I don't know about you, but to me, this story sounds like it might be a good read. This month, I thought I would dip into The Airy, which contains the letters to the editor, all of them highly laudatory. Typical is this one from DLC, Denver, Colorado. Quote, "Congratulations on your new magazine, Weird Tales. The first edition was a veritable ghastly, ghostly knockout. Most everyone enjoys an occasional ghost story, and a thrilling novelette like Ooze is a better tonic than Tanlac." End of quote. Tanlac, by the way, was a stomach tonic. That's tonic. Available at the time, it was largely alcohol and glycerin. The Airy concludes by inviting readers to send Weird Tales the details of any skeletons in their closets. Quote, "Open the door and tell us the weird event of your family history. It may sound terrible to you after reading it, but to others would prove only ordinary reading matter. The similarity of these skeletons cannot be other than remarkable and interesting to our readers. Your skeleton should not exceed 1,000 words or run less than 500. If possible, have them typewritten. Your name and address will not be published with the story if accepted. For each skeleton published, we will pay $5. Okay, dear listeners, you go first. The text displayed by Project Gutenberg also shows the ads that appeared in the April edition, including one for a 32 or 38 caliber handgun for only $11.95. Such is, or was, the April 1923 edition of Weird Tales. I've put links to the April 1923 issue through both Project Gutenberg and the Internet Archive in the description, so you can, if you so choose, read the stories. And if you do, let me know what you thought about the ones you read. And if there are any you think I should read here on the channel. I plan to continue going through every issue of Weird Tales, month by month from now on. Won't you join me? One final thing. I've discovered that the Internet Archive has a Pulp archive, a Pulp magazine archive, featuring back issues of Weird Tales, Amazing, Planet Stories, Creepy, Eerie, Vampirella, etc. Be sure to check it out. Link in description. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs. Till midnight. Cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix Here, that's PX Here, while the music was the classic Ghost Story by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.